Alright, so I was just watching YouTube and came across this channel that I watch occasionally. I'm not a big fan of theirs. F-stoppers. I don't hate them. I don't know. Something about the hosts. I don't know. Anyway, the main host, whose name I don't know, was there with a guy whose last name is Pi, and he said, well, this guy is a world-famous wedding photographer. Which, just aside, I'm sure this dude's super talented, and I'm sure in some circles he's famous, but, like, what percentage of people, like, have a list of, like, the best wedding... I mean, he's not Ansel Adams, who wasn't a wedding photographer as far as I know. Maybe he did weddings, who knows, but he's not Ansel Adams. And there are, Annie Leibovitz, whatever, however her name is pronounced. There are famous photographers, obviously, throughout history. But like world famous wedding photographer, what does that mean? I guess he's award winning. Cool. I'm sure he's a great photographer. I didn't even bother looking up his work, but his last name was Pi. And so the video was titled like "These wedding critiques are wedding photo critiques are harsh." Okay, whatever. I decided to look at it, and so they apparently F-stoppers had run this contest to win like a wedding photography tutorial from them, and so they were going through the list from the highest rated one on down, and they brought in this guy Pi to critique them, and they started with the highest rated one, which was a gorgeous photo. It was a woman in front of, like, with her back turned to the camera, in front of a clock tower, and it was very well framed. Beautiful photo. Is it necessarily what I would do? No. I mean, it was a beautiful photo. From my taste, it's a little posed, but unquestionably fantastic image. And the guy, so they it's so stupid. They decided to rate it by, like, they were like using their fingers like they're, what do you call it, rock paper scissors, and or Rochambeau, whatever. They're like, all right, in the count of three, 1, 2, 3, and the guy gives up 2 fingers. So if you're not familiar with rating system, like when you do Lightroom, when you're going through it, you can rate your photos before you start editing them to kind of clear out what you need. So he was saying, like, out of 5, so that basically, obviously, you have 5 fingers, but he was saying out of 5, he'd only give it a 2, and the guy said, I wouldn't even put that in my portfolio. And the other guy, the host of F-Stoppers, was like, you're out of your mind. Like, he gave it a 4, which I think is still low. I mean, I guess it depends on that's the thing, like, it's a weird rating system where, like, what gets a 5? What's your system measurement? But fair enough. Like, he gave it a 4. And he's like, you wouldn't even conclude that your portfolio? He's like, no, he uses this term that was I hadn't heard of, which maybe it's common, I just don't know it. But basically, he was talking about the fact that it was symmetrical, which people look for symmetry in great photography. And that's not to say that your photo has to be symmetrical to be great, but he was like, well, the elbows are at the same position. It's clearly posed. Yeah. So what? And it just bugged me so much because so I saw a couple of people like, man, I mean, if that's not good enough, I mean, I shouldn't even be a photographer. And I was like, no, that is the wrong reaction. That dude's an asshole. Like, other people kept watching, and apparently he becomes a bigger prick as the video goes on. At one point, he calls one of the wedding clients, one of the brides, ugly or something. Like, maybe he doesn't say ugly, but he's like, yeah, that's not very attractive. Like, what? Yeah, dude, ugly people get married too. Like, to look at a picture of a bride and just be like, ugh, like, and look, if you think it personally, I don't blame you for that. But to be on camera and looking at an image of a woman on the day that she's been waiting her whole life for and just be like, oh, I don't know about that, I mean, shit, I've seen people with ugly children. I don't go, oh my God, your baby. I think it. I'm a human being. I have opinions, and it's unfortunate, but you don't tell someone, like, even though she's not in there, obviously, but it's on camera. It's on the internet. Anyway, but these people are like, oh my God, if the top image, because they started with the top image, and somebody else pointed out, like, maybe you should have started with the lower images and gone down, because if the best image in there, you're like, you're so pretentious that you're like, I wouldn't even, it's garbage as far as I'm concerned. Which isn't what he said, but it's what he meant. And like I said, like these guys, I saw a couple of people like, oh God, I should stop shooting. And I'm assuming they're being facetious, but on some level they're being facetious. But you never know. They might just be like, oh my God, I suck. And I'll never be good if I can't, if that's considered nothing, then what will I ever be? Because that's about as good as I could ever do. And I actually wrote to one of them, probably not worth doing, but I said, no, this guy's a prick. Like there's two elements in art. And there's only one element that you can question, which is technical skill. Whether you're, wherever your art is, photography, painting, comic book artist, a chef, you can question someone's technical skill if they don't know what they're doing about the basics of that art. Totally fair. But if you have the technical skill down, absolutely no one can question the artistic side of it. It's not up to people to tell you how to do your art. Like that, again, the wedding photo that I don't disagree that it's not like the best wedding photo of all time. Is it what I have done? No, that doesn't mean it's not insanely good. That was a fantastic photo. And this guy's just like, well, it wasn't what I would do. Like, go fuck yourself, you prick. Like, oh my God, it just burns me. Like, yeah, again, if the person had technical issues where, their settings weren't right, or whatever, or there's not enough, it's overexposed, it's underexposed, fair enough. But saying, like, well, it's too symmetrical, that's an idiotic comment. I don't care if you're the greatest photographer of all time. If that guy was in front of me and I was talking to this guy and he was acting like that, I'd be like, oh, fuck this guy. I'll go with somebody else. Like, ugh, God, it just, I don't know why about it. And look, and I'm sure the guy's a way better photographer than me. I'm sure, I don't even think there's any possibility that's not a question, that's up for debate, but art is a great thing, but pretentious artists are some of the worst things out there. Anyway, that's all. I just really had to talk about that. It's a pet peeve of mine. Like, go fuck yourself. Go learn your art, learn the technical side of it, and beyond that, don't let anyone tell you how to make your art, other than the clients that you're obviously trying to please. And that's it for my rant.